All right, so let's get started. Pastor Patty gave me a few notes to kind of go over with you guys first. We're going to have a few different speakers talking about boundaries. Just a little recap on boundaries. Boundaries, just the definition of that, a line that marks a limit between an area, a dividing line. Boundaries are limits or guidelines a person sets that defines what is acceptable and what is not. The Buchanan Dictionary definition of a boundary, something such as a river, fence, a line that shows an area where an area ends and another area begins. A point or limit that indicates where two things become different, or an unofficial rule about what should not be done. Limits that define acceptable behavior. Having godly boundaries is a choice to honor God. Take a stand for His words. Sorry, I had a glare. His word tells us that we will guard. His word tells us what will guard and protect us and what will defeat and destroy us. So whenever we started talking about the boundaries, there were a few different types of gates that we talked about. Maybe remember what the gates were?
Eye gate, ear gate, mouth gate.
Exactly. So you have your eye gate, things we see or watch that gives the enemy access. Ear gate, things we listen to that allow the enemy to gain entry. And the mouth gate, things we say that open the door to the enemy. So what we're going to hear from tonight is a total of 5 people who's going to talk about boundaries that they've had to put in place to, kind of protect them and things like that. So I'm kind of just going to open it up and see which one of our 4 kind of want to go first. So I look on this side, no one volunteers. So Jaleesa, you want to go first?
Yeah. You don't have to ask me.
The whole time.
I know. Oh crap, my stuff. Hold on.
She brought notes.
I did. Well, because I can make anything sound good, but I don't know how to just spew scriptures out. So that is not good. So to put this thing on. It doesn't have to be pretty. Okay. All right. So when Pastor Patty asked me to talk about boundaries, kind of that's one of my testimonies that I'm really not going to dive really into too far today. All right. Thank you. But it is something that if I did not set boundaries, I wouldn't be in front of you guys today. Like, I would probably be somewhere else. I had no clue. I don't even want to think about that. So I think it is vital for any family, whether you do it on a spiritual note, on a personal note, however anybody looks at it, I think boundaries need to be set for your family, for yourself, and for your workplace. Like, even if you don't look at it as, oh, I need to do this to make sure that my walk with God is correct, just being a good human, boundaries need to be set. So I wanted to dive into, are there 3 gates? Because I can think of a 4th. So what's the gates? Eyes, mouth, and what? Ears. What about what you think? That's not a gate, but there's going to be that's my gate. So, kind of like because what you think turns into what you hear, turns into what you speak, and turns into what you see. Pressure really got to me about 4 years ago. I started in this church in 2019, and it was 2019 and 20 that really, man, if I didn't set the boundary starting in 2021 or 2, like I said, I wouldn't be standing here today. But pressure really got to me. I want to say that letting your yes be yes and letting your no be no, that is so important. Know that what you are feeling in your gut it's spiritual discernment. I would feel that in my gut and think, okay, I'm saying no to this because that is what I need to say no to, whether it's for myself, whether it's for my marriage, for my family, whatever. And then I would think, oh, well, then the devil would spin lies in my head, and it would get to where it was just, obviously I would just go from there. And so I would say yes to things I should be saying no to, saying no to things that I should be saying yes to, or sticking with just know in general. Matthew 5:37, that is what it talks about on letting your yes be yes and your no be no. It says, simply let your yes stay yes. Simply let your no stay no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. And if I would have had this, actually no, even if I would have had this scripture back then, I wasn't even setting boundaries, so it wouldn't have even spoke to me like it speaks to me today. What I was saying yes to and saying no to was coming from the flesh, was coming from the lies and just everything from the enemy, saying that this is the walk that you need to walk. What you're doing, who cares if it messes up your family? Who cares if it messes up your life? Like, this is how you need to be walking. And that was from the evil one. But at the time, of course, I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't know how to set boundaries that way. It goes both ways, too, when I talk about pressure. It talks about you being pressured. And really, when you're being pressured and you're not setting boundaries, they don't have to talk to you a lot, or you don't have to be shoved over by pressure. I mean, just one little, hey, and all right, like, it doesn't have to be a lot to go the wrong direction when you're already going the wrong direction, I guess I should say. But being pressured and pressuring others, I didn't really deal with that as much, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, I kind of did now that I'm thinking about it. Well, all right. But that goes, like, you need to know when you are pressuring someone who is saying no, like what you're talking about. And that comes with, we talked about that in our class on constructive criticism, I guess I should say. Like, if I'm telling Lindsay to do something and she's like, oh, Jaleesa, come on now. That is her being my good friend instead of going, all right, let's go jump off this bridge or whatever. I don't know. But that comes with just growing in Christ. And just going with the Bible says. So your spiritual guidance, it's going to be in your gut, especially if you're living in the Word, walking the Word, hearing the Word and all that kind of stuff. So that the pressure can come at you, like it can come at me right now, but I don't care. Like, it's not good. I'm unmovable. Now that has come with years of becoming rooted and becoming. Now, does it hurt? Probably, yeah. It ain't happened yet, so hopefully it don't. But all right. So anyway, and also when I'm talking, I know I get to never mind. I digress. So being pressured still goes into my next one on setting priorities. That goes with setting your boundaries. What you prioritize and what you find important and what you feel you need to be involved in, that is going to put up your boundaries for you. Setting my family first, if I would have done that in the past, that line would have already been written in the sand, and I wouldn't have had to go through what I went through. And it says that in Luke 16:13, that no servant can serve two masters. Now, I've heard this before, but I didn't really care about that verse, honestly, until it really hit me. Okay, like, I say that I'm a Christian, and I look like I'm a Christian, because outside I'm not acting like I'm not one, but I know what I was doing, and I know the boundaries that I was crossing. There was no boundaries, so the stuff that I was doing was not godly. You're either going to hate the one, talking about the Lord, and love the other master, or you're going to love the Lord and hate the other or despise the other, talking about the flesh. So you can't hate your flesh and love God and say, well, okay, flesh, I'm liking this, even though the Lord doesn't like it. Like, you can't bounce back and forth. You've got to know. And that, of course, that comes with growing, but that goes right along with the setting those boundaries. They're important. They're vital, man. And I set them professionally every single day, because that goes along with the people who you work with. I got some people that, man, they're fuzzy strawberries. I'll tell you that much right now. They may be rotted, but I don't let them fuzzy my strawberry. All right, I don't let them rot my fruit, because they can say what they want to, but that boundary is, yeah.
That was great.
No. I'm focused. But I dealt with one today, and it was at the point where I didn't want to go to them and involve them on something that they not really needed to be involved in, but I'm a school counselor for those who don't know. Everybody, most of the part knows, but so that I'm an administration role, and so when I did not want to involve the fuzzy strawberry today because they ticked me off, I went to one of my coworkers and I said, please talk me through this. And she gave me hey, all right, don't give them ammunition. Like, don't give them like, oh, well, they didn't involve me on this, because they will. You need to act Christ-like, and that's a boundary that you need to set is, hey, you know what, you may hate the world, you may hate yourself, but your hatefulness ain't going to rub off on me. And if you're hateful to me, I'm not going to go back to you with that same attitude. Which is hard. That's why my medicine. Yeah, I know. It's pretty good. So, but you've got, I'm telling the truth. But in all honesty, hey, I know, don't you? Too kind. So, but boundaries, they protect me in closing. Boundaries, they protect my family. They protect my husband. God love him because he has to put up with me. Boundaries have saved my marriage. Boundaries have changed how I feel and I think, and it makes it easy now that I'm used to setting boundaries. Something comes on or something on the radio or something on the TV, I don't want to listen to it if it's got anything that goes against what I believe in. Or if someone comes up and they start cussing and carrying on, well, I don't do that. I just like, okay, all right, so I can walk away and not feel like, oh, I just got to make sure that they're not mad at me because I'm sitting here and I just got to make sure. No, because you're going along with them. Like, even if you're not saying anything. So now at my work, they know, hey, don't say that around Jaleesa because she ain't gonna like it. Or if you do, like, I'm gonna walk away. So setting boundaries, it saves you, just like Jesus. So I'm done. Thank you. I was helping Cassie.
You did good.
No, thank you, Jaleesa. We appreciate that. I think, Madison, did you care to go next?
Oh, Madison.
I'm on that. I'm sorry.
All right, y'all. So let me go to my notes. If you don't know who I am, my name is Madison. Hello. Hello. The boundary I'm going to be talking about is the ear gate. The ear gate. So I don't think any of you knew me before Christ in my BC era. Consider that a blessing. But as everyone who has been saved, you do have a past. But the main thing that I dealt with was, well, one of the main things that I dealt with was what I listened to, mainly music. So, for reference, the ear gate involves things we listen to that allow the enemy to gain an entry into our lives. So, for me, it was what I listened to, specifically music. And to give you a little bit of insight, before I was saved, I was very depressed, hated God, very angry, all of the above, you know. And so what I listened to reflected that. And once I was saved, I turned into a completely different person. It was a 180 change. I'll never be the same. I'm very grateful for it. But even when you were saved, you still have to renew your mind. So for me, what needed to be renewed was what I listened to. And when you're passionate about music, if anyone in here knows, it's hard to let go of some things, right? So the more I got into the Word, the more I realized that the things I was experiencing and like the effects, like anxiety and anger and stuff like that, was fueled by what I listened to. Now, there's not a scripture in the Bible that says thou shalt not listen to deathcore or anything along those lines. And I wasn't necessarily listening to those things anymore. That was in the past. I knew that was bad. It obviously did not glorify the Lord. It glorified Satan. But there were little things, little tidbits in the songs that I would listen to where I would try to justify, like, okay, well, maybe I can make this Jesus-fied. No, it didn't work out like that. So the verse I want to use, Proverbs 4:23, we are to guard our hearts. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So not only the things that I was experiencing, anger, anxiety, that type thing, was fueled by what I was listening to. How I was talking to people was also an issue. So how I would carry on a conversation, how I was quick to anger, that type of deal. But when I was not listening to what I will refer to as secular music, I was in a better headspace. And it's because it was glorifying the Lord. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some Christian songs that have really bad doctrine, and we need to be careful about what we're listening to. But at the end of the day, what we are listening to, what is coming in our ears, will affect who we are on the inside. So let's see if there's any other nuggets, because I think I've only talked for about a minute and a half. I talked about thou shalt not listen to deathcore. I wrote everything down. Negative repercussions for what we listen to. But that's my boundary. I draw the line there. Now, my boundary where I set the limit may be different than where you set a limit. And that's between you and God. But for me, personally, because of where I came from, what I have been through, what the Lord redeemed me from, I can't go back to that. I can't even be nostalgic, because I know nostalgia is a big thing now. We love the 2000s and 90s alternative and all that great stuff, but I can't go back to that, because that's who I used to be. I'm no longer that person. And above all else, I am to glorify the Lord. So, let's see, any other nuggets? Pastor obviously likes to talk about healing, prosperity, all good things, all biblical, straight and to the point. What you listen to can also affect where you are in progression. So if you are seeking healing, seeking prosperity, seeking deliverance from something, wisdom, knowledge, anything that you are seeking the Lord about, you're expecting Him to manifest for you. If you have things in your life, music would be one thing for me. It's important to lay those things down, take a look around, see, hey, am I listening to something not good, or you know what I mean. But yeah, that's all I got. So.
All right. Let's move right along. Cassie? I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is, did you read my notes?
No.
Okay. So, much like her, mine is pretty much about the ear gate, and the verse that I picked out was Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That's why I asked. Because it emphasizes the importance of protecting ourselves, such as our emotions, our thoughts, our hearts. My, biggest thing was also the music that I listened to.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
After I rededicated my life back in 2 Februarys ago, whatever, that was pretty much the first thing that I had to get rid of, because just death, things you shouldn't be doing, just what you're listening to, it really does put an impression on you whether you realize it or not. So I had to let that go. Basically, I was also extremely depressed. I never left my room, as you all have heard me say. So, like, I didn't have any boundaries set in place to protect my heart or my mind from, like, negative thoughts or influences. So, let's see here. I've had to set certain boundaries against certain family members for my depression, or for the depression that I once dealt with. I won't say it's mine.
That's right.
And like, I don't sit and dwell on like negative things or like harbor like anger anymore. Like, I'll just talk to God about it and let that go. And you just like really, my biggest boundary is my music. I've had to quit, like, set a boundary against horror movies, all of the things.
That's wild to me. I've never known anybody else that's had, like, I know there's other people, but as far as like someone else who's had to have like a serious boundary on that's
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Like, you know, God didn't give us the spirit of fear, so why would you create it for yourself? Like, sit and watch movies that literally make you terrified to leave your bedroom. Why would you want to do that to yourself? So, like, you know, just got to let it go. I don't want to die. Why do I sit and listen to music about dying, you know? I'm grateful to be alive.
I'm not depressed anymore. Why am I listening to
Yeah, no more depression, no more sad music. It's got to go. Really, that's like pretty much it.
That was roughly about 2.5 minutes. So you did more than you said you would. That's good.
You
So-
stole all the words right out of my mouth. It's okay.
So there we go. So if anyone else may suffer, or I'm going to say suffer is probably the bad word, that needs to set that boundary with ear gate. Here's two good examples. And so let's move on. The next person, let's have Sean.
All right. Well, I too have an ear gate thing, so and mine is actually also music, but I wasn't going to spend too much time on it because I figured there's going to be between the eyes and the ears. I think music's a big thing, right? We know it's all. A lot of it's bad. A lot of bad music. I liked rap back in the day. Could you believe it or not? It's still pretty good, but you know, I don't listen to it. So I do wish there was better Christian music, though. I mean, man, you know, if they would just get some better production going. But you know, I'll keep praying for that one. Same thing with TV and movies. We've been struggling with that, even in our house. Trying to make sure our kids are watching good stuff. It's a struggle. I like action movies. I like watching people, you know, fight, and I've fought a long time, so I like to hit people. Things that I've had to struggle with. So movies in general are hard now, so I try to kind of steer away from it, just because I like all the bad stuff. So pray for me. It's a boundary. I'm still working on all this. This is a work in progress. So. Yeah, we have the eye gate, the ear gate, and the mouth gate, right? So we've got to watch what we say, we've got to watch what we're bringing in. But there's also other things that I think we need to be mindful of, and some things that I wasn't even really thinking about. So we had a friend visiting this last week, and I was just talking to him in a car about it, and I got the text from Pastor Patty asking me to go over this. And I was just getting done with a conversation with him saying, man, it's awkward. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a rocket engineer, but I'm also a business owner. I started a digital marketing agency. So every Wednesday I go down to Lexington, try to explain how I can help people's businesses, which is great, but you got to meet a bunch of different people who run all kinds of different businesses, who don't necessarily walk with God. And actually a lot of people walk with God, but don't necessarily, are not as far along in their journey, maybe we'll say, right? So they've got different boundaries themselves or don't have any at all. And one thing that I was just talking to him about is I don't like hugging people, especially women. Like it actively bothers me. I've not had to deal with it because in the corporate world, nobody's allowed to touch anybody. So you don't have some girl just coming up and trying to hug you. Well, now I'm in Lexington. I was telling them like there's some awkward conversation or awkward situations because I just won't do it. And you know when someone goes to give you a handshake, you can see it, you can feel it coming. Same thing with a hug, you know, people coming up and you're just like, oh, this is not, like I'm gonna go over here, start another conversation, just turn my back. But it makes for some awkward situations. But for me, it's important because there's a lot of scripture getting into protecting your family, adultery, and we have to remember that our boundaries are also examples for other people. So they go beyond just protecting yourself and your family and what's coming in. It's also helping further God, right? Because everybody I deal with knows that I'm a Christian. They know that I talk about like Elijah's healing, my son Elijah's healing. I'm very open about all of it. I'm open about my issues. I'm an open book just in general. But people also pay attention when you're making decisions and when you're doing things like awkward stuff, like avoiding them. But there's other men in the group that see that stuff who are very open and I would say push things too far and open doors and open things. And you know, it's not that the hug itself is adultery, right? There's nothing wrong with a hug. There all would be friend hugs. There's nothing that ever crosses a line. But it's what that starts, what that sets, and what that begins. And those are the things we've got to worry about. It's not the fact that you're listening to death metal that's bad, right? It's what it's allowing and it's those seeds that it's planting. And when you hug somebody from the opposite sex, when you're married, it's just a subtle thing. It's like when you're first starting to date, that physical barrier, that physical contact, that first touch, it's a start to more physical contact, more touch, and just growing a relationship. So we shouldn't be doing those things outside of your marriage. Like, I don't want to hug anybody but my wife. So, stay away from me. Right. I don't want it. But what was funny is I didn't even realize that was a boundary I was setting until and I would never have if I didn't get that text from Pastor Patty literally minutes after I was having this conversation with my friend. And I didn't even realize it. Because I was like, boundaries, like what am I going to talk about? Like not listening to music? Because like for me, it's important, don't get me wrong. But I don't, like, they're boundaries, right? This is all, and he's like, dude, you're just talking about one. Like, you don't hug girls, it's weird. Yeah, okay, I guess that's right. Appreciate it. But anyways, to kind of go a little bit further into this, it's important that if we don't set boundaries, we understand the consequences. If you are opening these opportunities to other people, you can slip and fall. None of us are impermeable to making mistakes or falling off the boat or doing anything bad. So it's best to just protect yourself and not even get that opportunity. If I don't hug any women, no women are going to approach me because they think I'm weird, which I'm cool with. Like that's fine, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't even have to. So I don't even have to worry about it now. But then Jesus also talks about being hot or cold, and I think the better we get at setting our boundaries, and the more we fall into the Word, and the more we follow it, and the more boundaries we set, because everybody's boundaries are different. And what I found is my boundaries seem to be getting tighter and tighter, and people on the outside would say stranger and stranger, because I don't want my family or myself to be out there in the world anymore. I don't want any of it to touch us. I don't want us to be affected by any of it, because the less footholds there are, the less the devil can do anything, like at all. There's no impact in my life with the devil because of all the boundaries I'm pulling in. And not to judge other people for their boundaries, because we're all at different stages and there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, you might be lactose, so you can't have milk. That doesn't mean I can't have milk. And I'm not going to judge you for not having milk. So same thing with the boundaries. We just got to let everybody do their thing, follow what's on your heart, and you'll be okay. And I think that's all I got.
That was good.
All right. So on the schedule, it's actually supposed to be my turn to speak, but Brad is going to put give us some of his boundaries real quick.
We're going to wing it. I'm going to tell you, I can echo
I can echo every single one of those because I'll touch on the other three, but I'll go a little bit different direction than everybody else. But music, everybody knows. Obviously, I'm a big music guy, and in the last year and a half, something like that, me and Hannah both have really tried to make a conscious effort because, I mean, as somebody who plays music or anything like that, I think it's really cool to take a song that is from a different genre or something like that and turn it into something else. Like when somebody does let's say for instance a rap song and then they do like a country and they make it a country type deal or something like that. Like I think music in general is extremely, it's intriguing, it's interesting. I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe it 99% of the time. So, I up until about a year and a half ago, I really listened to just a little bit of everything. I didn't get like crazy out there with stuff, but like I listened to a lot of different things, and really didn't like too much of the same genre. But about a year and a half ago, we were sitting in the car, and a song came on. I don't even remember what it was now, and Reed starts bobbing his head back there in the back, and I'm like,
It was a Jelly Roll song.
yeah. It was on the radio. I mean, it wasn't like we were like listening to it on Amazon or something like that. It comes on, and Reed starts bobbing his head, and me and Hannah just kind of look at each other and I'm like, now wait a minute. He's a year and a half old. Like, that's a boundary that we're going to start setting for our family, with which I kind of would go back to the ears, that, we're going to be very conscientious of what we're allowing into our home and allowing into our vehicle. Because, regardless of what anybody tells you, how much time you guys spend in your vehicle a week? I mean, you really start thinking about it. How much time are you allowing what's coming through those speakers to feed into your life? And those, it's just like Pastor Dale preached on, like the little foxes, right? I mean, it's the little things here, and there that just keeps adding up over time. So it kind of goes, and then to touch on what Sean was talking about, boundaries at work. Most of y'all know I changed jobs this last year, and the world that I came from, I worked in the power industry for about 10 years. Brad can tell you. Let me tell you something. There's not too many women in that industry, and two, the guys that are there, yeah, they'll make a sailor blush. So you kind of have the boundary that I had there was to, they'll talk about everything. Brad knows. There's nothing off limits in that type of work, and when guys are working. So I had to really set boundaries when I was in that job of when guys will start talking about things or talking, they'll talk about anything. You really had to set boundaries on what you participated in and what you thought was funny and what you allowed yourself to really discuss, because exactly what Sean was talking about a minute ago, regardless of whether you are the one saying anything, your actions are always judged about how you participate. So people are always watching, people are always judging, unfortunately, and it's our job as Christians to shine a light of Christ to our the best we possibly can. And then so fast forward a little bit, transitioning to my new job, which is a female-dominated profession, I guess you would say. I mean, I would say at Grace, even though my job isn't necessarily clinical, my job, or the company as a whole, I'm going to say is probably 70-ish, 75-ish% female. And, there's not too many, which, I'm a little bit different of a job. If you go to Grace Health, any of our locations, you're probably not going to see me. If you do see me, I'm probably working with a contractor on some lights or, a project construction-wise or working on that type of stuff. So I'm not going to be a part of any of your health care. That ain't me. I'm the keeps the electric and the lights on type of guy. But still yet, I mean, when you go from an pretty much all-male workforce to a now more prominent female workforce, it's just like, it's kind of a culture shock for one thing, right? Because you're just like, you go from a complete, total different environment to this, and then, everybody's going to have friends at work, and they're going to, you do your job, you have to collaborate and work with people, but you, again, just like Sean was talking about, you set boundaries. thankfully, my wife works with me, so works at the same location. So, it's you just got to set boundaries, and I always, I always go about conducting myself in a specific way, just to leave no doubt. Kind of like what Sean's saying, which I got a phobia of hugging, touching people. So, y'all probably know I ain't a big hugger, toucher. So, but yeah, I just, so I don't really have that issue to begin with. But in the same breath, it's just something always to be conscientious of and mindful of. But what boundaries that I really wanted to talk about, it kind of ties back into Reed. As most of y'all know, we got a 3-year-old, and a lot of y'all have kids. But the boundary that I guess it'd be eyes and ears, I guess you would say. But the boundary that I've been really trying to work on is the boundary and the standard that I'm setting as a parent toward my son. What do I allow? What do I not allow? Where is the line that we're drawing in the sand? For instance, like the music. We're not gonna just be listening to everything in the world in the vehicle and let him be hearing it and because regardless, just like my son's favorite song right now is "That's Who I Praise" by Brandon Lake. Kid can sing every word of it, and he's 3 years old, and I'm like, he ain't really. He's not really grabbing the concept of what the song's about. I don't think. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he's literally. I'm like, dude, you're 3, and you're already being able to rattle off lyrics and feel it. Because me and him will be singing at the house or something like that, and I'll be singing a song, and I'll stop and to get him to fill in the lyric, and he'll fill it in. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So not only are what they're, like music in the vehicle, but like everything that they're watching. So one thing that we've been really trying to set a boundary on and set a standard with is what they watch, right? They can get on YouTube and find anything. If you're not monitoring what your kid's watching on YouTube or what they're watching on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, I got news for you. You better, because there's everything in this world on there, and what you are allowing into their brains at this young of age, or even elementary school, starts getting ingrained in their life and in their mind is what's right and what's wrong. So one thing, we've been doing a lot of anytime Reed finds a new show, we do a lot of research. So I'll give one quick example and I'll shut up. But Reed's favorite show on YouTube is Handyman Hal, and I think it was a God thing that we found Handyman Hal. I don't know if any of y'all's kids watch Handyman Hal. Highly recommend it. He gets on there. He does all kinds of sorts of things, from fixing on things. He just does everything in the world. Just all these different activities and stuff. Well, when it first happened, Reese first started liking Handyman Hal. Me and Hannah went to start digging, especially Hannah went in to start digging and diving on who this guy really is. Because if my son's going to sit here and watch him for hours, I can't be standing over his shoulder 24 or every second that he's watching this and approve of everything that's going into his ears, right? So what we ended up doing was we just started looking up information about him. Actually, believe it or not, the guy is a youth pastor in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then me being me, I went to the church. I figured out the church that he was a youth pastor of, and I looked at their doctrine. I wanted to know what they believe, because if they just believe everything in this world, which there's churches out there, things that he might think would be okay to put on his channel, I might severely disagree with. So that's thankfully there's some small differences, but for the 95% of it, their doctrine and their articles of faith, is that the right term? Yeah, articles of faith is the same as the Church of God, which is a big deal. An example on the flip side of that, and I can't even remember the name of it. He found something. I don't really know where he found it at. I think we were out somewhere, and somebody was like, "Oh, my kid watches this," and we tried it out, and Reed just locked in. And of course, me and Hannah was like, "I don't know about this. It's kind of like it's overstimulating, whatever." Well, we got to reading on person that was over the channel or whatever, whoever's channel that it was, out in left field. So immediately we cut that off, and you know, that was one thing that, you know, if we just let that grow and foster, who knows what that would turn out to be. But so I guess my boundaries that we've been really trying to set is eyes and ears, but more so ourselves as setting an example, but also for our kids, and for the ones of you that's got kids, I think hopefully you'll kind of get that. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Brad. So we've heard a lot about the ears, the eyes. Does anyone have anything real quick about the mouth? Come on up, Brittany. Come on up. Come on. Let's hear it real quick.
As you all was talking, I just thought about this. I'll have to put this on here.
Or you can hold it either way.
Oh, okay. As you all was talking, I thought about this verse in Proverbs 18 and 21, and it says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." And just share a personal experience. So the career that I have, you know, you got a day and a night shift. So I learned real fast that the friends that you thought you had on one shift, that you gonna confide and tell them something, it's gonna go right around to the next shift. So what you tell day shift's gonna go on night shift. So, you know, that's kind of an example of the power of the tongue. It can cause great harm or it can cause great good. And another example of that is kind of Blake's taught me with Carly, is that with her starting school, she started kindergarten this year, and I was being all kind of worried about it, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, Mommy's not excited about this. Mommy don't want you to go to school. But Blake was like, you know, we need to tell her, you're going to learn so much. This is going to be so exciting. So what I was saying was going to cause fear, was going to cause anxiety, but what he was saying was going to cause excitement, going to cause joy, getting to learn something new, making new friends. So I think when we're talking to our kids, that's a good thing to kind of be aware of when you're talking to them. And let's see, I had another verse here somewhere that I was looking at when y'all was talking. Proverbs 21 and 23. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. And Lord, ain't that the truth? I'm telling you, me and my dad kind of have the same energy on things. I'm a lot like him. So whenever I get mad and upset, guess who I'm calling? Calling my daddy, because he's going to get mad and upset too. So he'll probably be having a good day out in the hills, you know, setting some trail cameras out. Here I am calling him, Daddy, you ain't going to believe what happened. And then he'll get mad and tore up. So here I am taking his good day and making him mad. So we gotta have to keep that in mind too, whenever we're thinking about our mouth gate. And then I'll tell you one more little personal life experience. Is I had a coworker one time, and I don't know, for some reason she just did not like me. I don't know if it was my personality. I don't know, but she just did not care for me at all. And so she got in a situation, and I was doing my own little thing over here, and I was kind of listening to him talk, and she was really needing some help with something, and I thought, my little self was like, you need to help her. I said, nope, I ain't doing it. I ain't gonna do it. And it kept saying, offer to help her. I'm like, no, I ain't doing it. And finally I listened to the voice, and I offered to help. And now we're really good friends, and I look forward to working with her. So maybe something like, if you have a situation where you disagree with someone or they just don't like you, maybe just offering some kindness, offering a good word to them might change your whole relationship. So that's kind of what I had in mind. Sorry, it was kind of crazy put together on the spot.
I got about 5 minutes. I'm going to try to go as quick as I can. We'll see how fast I can really talk. So my big thing, it's not necessarily the ears, the eyes, the mouth. Mine's people. I've had to set boundaries with people who were a big part of my life. So dating back to when Lindsay and I got married back in 2011, I was real good friends with a lady, and she was gay. And so this lady, my best friend, we did everything together. It was literally like a sister-brother mixture, best friends. She was the best man in our wedding, and we were just that close. But what I found whenever we hung out and things like that, it was nothing but a party. We would go to Lexington, we'd go to Knoxville, and it was just a party, nothing but drinking, and it was a party. It's exactly what it was. Even whenever Lindsay and I got married, I introduced Lindsay to her, and we would go out and we would party. Fast forward a few years, we were still friends up until probably 2019, you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember.
It was when we started back faithfully.
So 2019. So 2019, Lindsay and I were something just clicked with us, something changed. And I realized that the path that my life was going to go isn't going to go that way if I could still have this person in my life. I still love this person dearly, that if she called and she said, hey, Daryl, I need you to come help me, something happened with mom and dad, I'd go and help her because I love her as a sibling. But I know I can't be around that person every day like I was. I can't invite them over to the house because of, the influence they may have on Ava and Macy, the influence they may have on me, because I know when we get together, it's going to be a party. That's just what we were used to doing. So, like I said, the big thing for me was having that boundary with that person. And it goes a step further with friends I had in high school. Yeah, we still talk whenever we go out somewhere. If I see them at Walmart, at a sporting event, we're still going to talk, but I'm not hanging out with those people anymore because I know exactly what we did in high school, and that's going to happen again. Not because I'm weak, but because of just the influence they have and the friendship that we had. That's what we were used to doing. So I'm sure several people in here have set boundaries with people, and that's okay. We need to have those boundaries because that keeps us in line with the will of God at that point. Do I believe that Lindsay and I would be where we are in our walk with Christ, or where we are in a relationship if I didn't set that boundary before? Probably not. We'd probably, who knows where it would be. So if it's something that you need to look into setting those boundaries with people. Watch what you're seeing. Watch what you're, that's a good one, watch what you're seeing. Watch what you're listening to and kind of watch what you say, and set those boundaries where you need to set those boundaries at, and see and make sure that, not saying make sure, but you'll see your life aligning with the will of God at that point. Before we close, does anybody have anything else they want to share as far as boundaries? All right.